Okay, so apparently my friend is not here. Everybody relies on GPS, which is stupid because paying attention to your surroundings is way better, okay? So I pay attention to my surroundings. That's why I still have a flip phone. I pay attention to the fact that my country is stupid. I pay attention to the fact that human beings don't want to be human beings. I pay attention to the fact that people don't seem to pay a lick of attention to things. Ooh! Come on. They don't pay a lick of attention to things until their lives become inconvenient. And even then, they don't really care. As long as they can go back to their routine and their little television program and they can go back to lying to themselves, then they really don't care that everything around them is falling apart, and they don't care that right up the street there's a sex trafficking ring, and they don't give a shit. And that's something I've always noticed about Americans, and so I could never understand why people would be proud to live here. But, you know, I would probably say that if I lived anywhere else. It's just that there's this, like, fetishization of this country. Hello. You gonna come over here? Okay. You're going to see Paisley's tail in a second. Come on. Come on, show him your tail. Show him your tail, honey. Show him your tail. But, yeah, my friend is very apologetic. Well, because she told me that she was going to pick me up, right? And I guess she didn't mark it in her calendar. And she's like me. Like, she's got ADHD. So I say that in quotations because I think that it is a real thing. Like, a lot of these disorders are real, okay? But it's really for the sole purpose of, like, controlling the public. And, you know, if everybody puts themselves in these little boxes, you know, as you can see with, like, the LGBT shit, you know, there are plenty of people that are gay but don't feel the need to constantly talk about it, you know? And I think that that's a thing with disorders. Like, people feel the need to just constantly, like, reiterate that they're a certain way. And I know I do that with schizophrenia, and I'm sorry if it gets redundant, but I do that because, well, first of all, autism and ADHD are on the schizophrenia spectrum. And I've had enough people flag me down after comedy sets and ask me if they're schizophrenic because they relate to me. Well, if you smoke weed, you're well on your way. So there you go. I think that what they call schizophrenia is just abnormal thinking, you know? So just asking questions makes you schizophrenic, okay? Like, if you don't trust what you're told about things, then you're going to get labeled that. And if you can't pay attention to boring shit that they teach you in a government school, they're going to say you have ADHD, you know? Just like if you don't socialize properly, they're going to say you have autism. Now, granted, there are plenty of people out there with autism, and I think they just kind of use that as an excuse so that they don't have to be better people, you know? And I just don't want to do that with my illness. But anyway, yeah, so this friend of mine, her brain is like me. Like, she has to, she has to like remind herself of things in order to get shit done, or she'll forget, you know. So she forgot to come pick me up. So that's why I'm still here waiting on her, but that's cool. I really don't want to be at work anyway. But yeah, back to Americans. Let's change the... I did it myself. But what motivates me to do things myself? The one that made me, 'cause he knows I have the tendency to put it off, put it off, put it off, put it off. So why would I take pride in the fact that I get up and I do what I'm supposed to? Yeah, I got a pretty strong, yeah, I got a pretty strong work ethic. Yeah, I can admit that sometimes look down on other people because they don't have that, but then I think maybe they just don't understand the necessity of it. Maybe they just don't understand the value of that. So why would I fault other people for not being me? It's ridiculous, and I feel like most people are in this mindset. So hopefully, if I put myself out there, expose myself for the human that I am on a daily basis, maybe you won't have so much shame in the way that you are, and you can openly admit it. I think that narcissism really is the problem with most situations, because we're so ashamed we can't admit our shame, but if we did that, we could move on. Stuck, and they pretend they don't give a fuck, but they do, they obviously do. You know, it bothers me that I'm not as good at this as I'd like to be, but I'm getting better daily. I'd like to think. Maybe I'm just gaslighting myself again. But we're so lucky to acknowledge the simple fact that we're flawed. We're so lucky, lucky, lucky. The correct term is blessed. But we'll start with lucky, see what happens next. When you have that attitude of gratitude, you can't go wrong. Because you look around you and you realize that all the stuff that you want, maybe it's not as good as what you imagine it to be. And if you had it, would it really live up to your idea of it? Probably not. And see that with so many people, they're too busy idealizing to really appreciate people for what they are. And because they idealize, they have no choice but to devalue when you're not what they want you to be, and you don't do what they want you to do. It's because they can't accept that they're flawed, so they're too busy pointing out your flaws. But it's because they're deeply, deeply, deeply insecure.